I'd like to call to order this Committee of the Whole meeting of the Town of Saugeen Shores and extend a welcome to everyone in the chambers, the council chambers this evening. And the first order of business is a declaration of pecuniary interest, and I'll remind every member of your responsibility to do so, and you can do so now or when it arises on the agenda. Nothing. Then second order of business is additions and deletions or amendments to the agenda, and we have none before us. The next item then is delegations, and this evening we have a delegation regarding the Saugeen Shores Refugee Fund, and Katherine Martinko, I hope I pronounced that right, is here. Welcome, Katherine. And just push the orange color button and the light will come out there. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Katherine Martinko. I'm here to speak to you about a new group called the Saugeen Shores Refugee Fund. This group was created 1 month ago by concerned local citizens who want to do something to help victims of the ongoing war in Syria. We believe that the best response is to sponsor refugees to come live in our community here, and I have come tonight to request a letter of support from the Mayor and the Town Council. It has been 4 years since the war in Syria started, the unfortunate outcome of a peaceful revolution in 2011 that turned bloody with the regime's response. As a result, the country is being emptied of its people. Nearly 50% of the country's pre-war population has been displaced, and half of those are children. Those who stay in Syria are living in a war zone. They are battling starvation and, according to some reports, eating rats to survive. 3.9 million are refugees. In other words, they are on the run. Stop for a moment to think about how bad life would have to get before you'd run away from your home, children in tow, and leave everything behind. Leaving is just the first hurdle. Next comes a journey to neighboring countries that are growing increasingly frustrated with the never-ending flow of people. In Lebanon, 1 out of every 3 people is a refugee. There are camps run by the United Nations in Lebanon, but those aren't a permanent solution. 96% of children in camps are not in school. In Jordan, multiple families are squeezed into apartments that cost far more than usual. They survive on food vouchers handed out by the United Nations, but the vouchers are becoming increasingly stretched. The result is a mass population that lives moment to moment, never knowing where their next meal will come from. Many of us don't realize how many injuries there are in the refugee camps. One Syrian businessman described a camp where there are 15,000 people on the wait list for prosthetic limbs. That's more than the entire population of Saugeen Shores. Others continue north to Turkey. The ones who actually get on boats to Europe are relatively wealthy compared to the ones who stay behind. They have money to pay the exorbitant fee to smugglers, up to $3,000 a head. The boat journey has received a lot of media coverage over here. We have all seen that photo of little Alan Kurdi, the boy who drowned with his mother and his brother and washed up on a beach in Turkey. But the really tragic thing is that he is only one of countless others who have also died. On September 13th, 34 more people died trying to make that same crossing, including 4 infants and 11 children. Alan Kurdi's picture affected me deeply. I also have a 3-year-old boy at home, and just like Alan, he loves to swim. Little Alan had been practicing his swimming for weeks in the hotel pool where he stayed with his family before they got in the boat that night. My son, too, spent hours this summer splashing with his bright orange water wings at the Port Elgin beach. And yet one of them is alive and healthy, with a comfortable home and a warm bed to sleep in at night, while the other drowned in a terrifying dark sea in the middle of the night. During the first week of September, soon after I saw that heartbreaking photo, I received an email from an organization called Mennonite Central Committee. It said, "Sponsors needed for Syrian refugees." Suddenly I realized this was something I could do. It was something the whole community could do. That's when I started the Saugeen Shores Refugee Fund. We are a group of local residents who feel compelled to help by assisting with the resettlement of refugee families in our area. It is a joint sponsorship venture with the federal government. Upon arrival, these refugees are permanent residents, eligible for OHIP, and able to work. We will find a place for them to live, pick them up at the airport, provide them with furniture and clothes, help them shop for groceries, enroll children in school and adults in English classes, drive them to appointments, help them fill out forms, and provide whatever physical and emotional support they need. These refugees have so much to offer us: food, music, customs, and stories that will enrich our community, bring young blood to an aging population, and infuse the town with entrepreneurial ambition. Other communities in Ontario are doing the exact same thing. Owen Sound is sponsoring at least 3 Syrian families. Wyerton, Clinton, Listowel, and London are fundraising too. A Syrian family has already arrived in Guelph, and Goderich has a family of 14 arriving next month from Sudan. The response in Saugeen Shores has been so positive and generous that we met our first $20,000 target on Friday after only 2.5 weeks of fundraising, and we are now on our way toward raising the second $20,000. I am here to ask the Council to provide the Refugee Fund with an official letter of support. A letter will serve 2 purposes. First, to let a family know that they are welcome in Saugeen Shores. And second, to be included in the settlement plan that will be submitted to the government. I'd like to leave you with a final story about a young man named Mohammed who studied English literature at the University of Damascus. Last year, he had saved enough money to get to Europe. He went home for a visit, only to have his brother's head delivered to the front door by ISIS. Mohammed fled, and after many weeks, finally arrived in Austria. Quote, "The first day I was there, I walked into a bakery and met a man named Fritz Hummel. He told me that 40 years ago he had visited Syria, and he'd been treated well. So he gave me clothes, food, everything. He became like a father to me. He took me to the Rotary Club and introduced me to the entire group. He told them my story and asked, how can we help him? I found a church, and they gave me a place to live. Right away, I committed myself to learning the language. I practiced German for 17 hours a day. I read children's stories all day long. I watched television. I tried to meet as many Austrians as possible. After 7 months, it was time to meet with a judge to determine my status. I could speak so well at this point that I asked the judge if we could conduct the interview in German. He couldn't believe it. He was so impressed that I had already learned German that he interviewed me for only 10 minutes. Then he pointed at my Syrian ID card and said, Mohammed, you will never need this again. You are now an Austrian." Unquote. Now is our opportunity to show the world that Saugeen Shores can rise to the occasion too. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Catherine, and I think there will be no problem at all with your requests here. I'm going to ask Council if they have any requests, but if you're successful with them, by all means let me know, and I would be more than happy to welcome that family to our community personally. So when you will be successful, and I'm sure you will. So any questions from any comments? Vice Deputy Mayor Huber.
Thank you. It's not really a question, but I was just curious. You're working on the next phase of your fundraising. Do you have any events coming up? Do you want to share
Yes, we do.
They are and what they are?
For any families with young children, we have a Halloween party happening on October 31st at the United Church here in Port Elgin. And we are also having a benefit concert, fundraising concert on November the 7th. That's a Saturday evening at the United Church here in Port Elgin. And that will be a mix of everything from classical to contemporary music. So it's $20 a ticket. So please come on out and support that if you can.
Any other comments? Councillor Grace.
Just thank you for all of your work and your vision, and it's very inspiring.
Thank you very much. There's a lot of wonderful people in this community who are making it possible.
If there's nothing else, then I can assure you that we can have a letter ready by the end of the week, and if you can drop into the office here, I can assure you that you can pick it up if that's
Sure.
what you would like.
Yep, that would be great. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
very much, Catherine, and the best of luck with you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is a general government staff report, and it has to do with animal licensing, and our clerk, Linda White, will present the report.
Thank you. The town of Saugeen Shores currently licenses dogs and cats, with the exception of the cats in the agriculture areas, on an annual basis. It is proposed that a permanent tag system be implemented commencing in 2016. The tags currently expire each year, and the pet owner is required to purchase a new tag and affix the tag in the pet's color on an annual basis. Since new tags are issued each year, the town orders tags on an annual basis, and any unsold tags are disposed of at the year end. A permanent tag system will eliminate the surplus tags, improve the administration of the program, and allow pet owners the convenience of electronic payment. It is being recommended that the permanent dog and cat tag system be implemented that will provide the pet owner with a tag that does not expire. The license fee will continue to be invoiced and collected on an annual basis. In 2016, a permanent tag will be mailed to all registered pet owners along with an invoice. In future years, only an invoice will be mailed to the pet owner, as the tag will still be in effect. The pet owner is responsible for notifying the municipal office of any change to the information registered on file with the town. The current tag system runs from June 1st to May 31st of the following year. It is being recommended that the annual license fee correspond with the calendar year and the fees be set at $15 prior to March 1st and $25 after March 1st. The increase of fee after March 1st will not be applied to an owner who has a dog or cat license or had the dog or cat less than 3 months. Recognizing that the current tag expires in May 2016, consideration will be given to phasing in the increase between March 1st and May 31st of 2016. The proposed change to a permanent tag is consistent with the municipalities that are listed there. The financial impact to this report is that the current price per tag is $13 prior to June 1st and $23 after June 1st, and a replacement fee of $3. Approximately 1,400 tags are issued annually. The increase of $2 per tag is expected to generate an additional $2,700 in revenue.
Thank you, Linda. Then the recommendation is that the necessary changes be made to the animal control bylaw to implement a permanent dog and cat tag licensing system commencing in 2016. Excuse me. And further, that the 2016 fees and charges bylaw reflect an increase to $15 per tag prior to March the 1st and $25 per tag after March the 1st. Questions or comments? Start with Vice Deputy Mayor Huber.
Thank you. Through you, this is a question for Linda. Linda, there's no proposed change to the replacement fee. I'm just curious, are the permanent tags more or less the same cost as the existing tags?
The replacement tags were proposed to be increased from $3 to $5.
Councillor Dave Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Linda, what's the penalty for not having a dog tag? And have we enforced the current bylaw? Like, has anybody been charged for not having their dogs properly tagged?
So the fine is $100. And yes, they have been charged. Specifically, if they're running at large and get impounded, prior to the dog owner or cat owner collecting their pet back, they have to pay the applicable fines, which includes failure to license.
So it's only if the dog gets loose and gets caught, but we don't check people walking their dog down the street to see if they got a tag on it?
We do that. We do at the dog park, and they are encouraged to come in immediately. Or they will not be allowed back in the park. So we kind of use that as the enforcement provision there.
Councillor Minaj.
Okay, so December the 8th last year, we increased the fees and charges for $1, which was about an 8.3% increase. And we did that based on information that we expected animal control to increase, and so we were looking for additional fees and charges to offset those costs. So this is a further 15% increase. So in the space of less than 12 months, we're recommending, I know it's going to be applied over 2 years, but we're recommending a 23.3% increase. So we're saving money on this tag system, Mr. Mayor, because we don't have to keep buying tags and having them wasted. So I'd like to know, why we needed to propose the increase. I understand the rationale of going to the one for life. That makes perfectly good sense. The increases I'm concerned with. Secondly, Mr. Mayor, I'm concerned with us doing financial business outside of budget time, either midterm budget time presented by the Director of Finance or at budget time. Not sure I understand the need to do this today. Why can't this wait to the fees and charges part of the budget? And then finally, after having done some homework and decided that I better read the bylaw, because this is part of the bylaw. I better reread the bylaw. I realized that I may have stumbled upon some problems with the bylaw. So I'm wondering if we can direct Linda or direct staff to take this back and make recommendations to the whole bylaw and bring forward the fees and charges change at the fees and charges part of the budget. Thank you.
Councillor Madison? I'll try and answer. You go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Linda, what about dogs that are chipped? Do they still have to have their tags every year?
No, they do not.
So how will this apply to those animals then?
So they register with the town their microchip, and then they do not pay the annual license fee.
So if
That's the current system.
Now how will that apply to the new system?
There would be no change.
Thank you.
Certainly in response to the questions posed by Councillor Minaj, why do we propose the increase? Certainly it's an effort to try to arrive at a bit more of a balanced budget for animal control. Certainly the revenues are approximately $10,000 shy of the expenditures that we incur each year. So the nominal increase of the revenue generation of $2,700 will assist in balancing the animal control budget. Do you need to do the financial change at this point in time? We weren't proposing that the fees and charges bylaw be amended any sooner. We're wanting this fee to be incorporated into the fees and charges bylaw. So certainly you would see an all-encompassing fees and charges bylaw, which is presented by staff in advance of the budget meetings. I believe that answers his two questions.
Any other questions? All in favor of the recommendation? Opposed, if any? That's carried. The next item on the agenda is Environmental Services and Transportation Staff Report, and it has to do with pre-budget approval for landfill equipment repairs, and our Director of Public Works, Stuart Doyle, will present.
Thank you. The town currently owns a 1997 landfill compactor, which we purchased several years ago to replace a smaller unit that would provide us with improved compaction capabilities. The machine we purchased at that time is now in need of immediate engine repair or replacement and is showing signs of high wear in many of the components of the machine. The current machine was slated to be replaced in 2018 with another pre-owned unit. However, in its current condition, the asset will not last to that point and likely will not last through the winter. Staff have reviewed actually several options available to the municipality and feel that a complete refurbishment of the current machine would be the best long-term investment and offer the lowest ongoing life cycle costs. The refurbishment would cost approximately $250,000 and would provide the town with a like-new machine when completed and would include a standard new machine warranty. The machine would need to be out of service for 60 days to complete the equipment repairs. I did note in there that we would be looking for a rental. However, I think we're going to try to go without to save some additional costs on that. The funding for this would be drawn from the fleet reserve, and the updated timing and value would be amended, and the forecast would come along with the 2016 proposed budget and fleet replacement policy.
Thank you, Stuart. And the recommendation is that Council give pre-budget approval for an expenditure to refurbish the landfill compactor in the amount of $250,000. Questions or comments? Vice Deputy Mayor Huber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just through you to Stuart, just want you to know we'll expect a picture now in all of your reports, because that was a nice touch. But what I wanted to ask you was, do you recall what the price was of the unit when we purchased it in 2008? And the second part would be, once it gets refurbished, what's your expectation for how many years it'll, given just normal sort of wear and tear, how many years would we expect to get out of the refurbishment?
So the cost of the 2007 or 8 was $172,500 was a used sale cost. I'm hoping that with the new machine we'll get it in excess of 10 years with the refurbished machine. However, unfortunately, the landfill does offer a pretty harsh environment for equipment, along with the sand, the garbage, and all the other things. So equipment does go through some pretty tough conditions there.
Councillor Mike Myatt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a couple of questions through you to Stu, if I could. Stu, I'm just wondering, the first question was, what exactly do we receive as a refurbishment for $250,000? So what's the scope of the refurbishment? And secondly, I understand before 2008 we had a smaller landfill compactor, went to the larger scale one. Can you give us a rough idea for council what kinds of dollars we save over the course of the year as a result of using that landfill compactor? What percentage of space are we actually saving through the use of the larger size landfill compactor? So there's a couple of questions there for you, Stu.
So the first question was, what is a refurbishment? And in this case, it's a complete refurbishment of the whole unit. So the engine gets rebuilt, the transmission's rebuilt. It goes as far as repainting the machine, new glass, new pumps, new hydraulic lines, rebuilding all the pumps. So pretty well top to bottom machine replacement, refurbishment of every part of the machine. And what's also nice is it is done semi-locally, to about an hour and a half away, where our mechanic can go down, follow the replacement, follow the work. The machine's sent away or the engine's sent away to a separate engine division of this company where it's completely overhauled. So we know what we're getting back, and we know, what it entails, and we're not getting a used piece of equipment that has a lot of question marks. Second question was, so I look back today on the airspace calculations would be without a compactor, and in my estimation, we save about 23% of airspace every year, which equates to approximately $150,000 of material based on our current landfill prices, had we not used a compactor. So how we do that is we know what's coming in. We can estimate a density that would fit into each cubic meter of landfill space, so that we know approximately what each cubic meter is worth. We can kind of look that back and know that we saved about 23% based on just compacting.
Deputy Mayor Charbonneau. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Stu, I just wanted to just clarify quickly, because it's not entirely clear in the report, although I think I can suss out the answer. I just want to know the reason for the pre-budget approval is because you want to do the refurbishment during the off season. That's the reason why we're doing this now and not in 2 months' time.
Two parts, yes. I'd like to get it done in the off season, and also we're putting about 6 liters of water in it a day to keep it going.
Okay.
So it's not going to last through the winter.
So it's that urgent to repair?
It is, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Minaj, and I'll get to Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So asset management planning says that we could probably have a pretty good idea using predictive maintenance schemes as well as preventive maintenance schemes as to how long an asset can last. We haven't been getting information that says how much preventive maintenance has been done on this unit since we purchased it in 2008. We don't know how long a $550,000 brand new asset could last. If we're in the habit of purchasing $175,000 2008 versions used, somebody else is in the habit of buying them new and then selling them off after a period of time. We don't have the accompanying finance director of finance or the substitute director of finance, acting director of finance report that says this is a good way. We have Stuart's version of this, and I'm sure that he's discussed it, and I'm sure he's knowledgeable. I'd like to see the director of finance department sign off on these plans before we go into them and agree to them. To me, it's not sufficient information to say that the $550,000 purchase could be the right purchase, and yet there's not sufficient information here to make that decision. I would like more information in the future and on this particular one, Mr. Mayor.
Just a point of clarification, the options were discussed internally amongst the senior staff, and we're confident this is the right recommendation in terms of value for dollar.
Thanks, Larry. Councillor Grace.
Yes, thanks. Stu, you mentioned that you don't think you're going to be using a rental unit, but if you did use a rental unit, how much would that cost?
We've looked at some options. There are some dozers, some heavier dozers out there. However, we're looking to $5,000 to $6,000 a month to rent these at a low end. So we do have a smaller dozer, and what we're going to try to do is spread our waste over a larger surface area, smaller lifts in the meantime. And we've been in contact with a company that we're looking at also, and they're suggesting a quicker turnaround time than 60 days now.
Councillor Dave Mayat.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Stu, you said that we're going to we have the money in the fleet reserve to pay for this refurbishment. Can you give us just an idea of the impact on the reserve, where it's at and where it would be afterwards?
I don't have those reserve numbers with us. That'll be upcoming in the documents that the Director of Finance will be giving you. However, we have deferred some landfill equipment this year, and we have also, I think there's a small surplus in there at this point, but it looks like Larry's ready to answer as well.
Contribution is about $575,000 a year, give or take, and so this would be a big portion of what you'd be contributing for next year. And the fire vehicle last year was a big draw, so you're sitting somewhere around zero, but there are not a lot of major draws proposed for 2016 in addition to this one.
Okay. If there's no further questions or comments, then all in favor of the recommendation? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Next item on the agenda is Community Services, Parks and Recreation Staff Report. It has to do with the Port Elgin Gateway signage, and our Director, Jane Jagalewski, will present.
Thank you. Staff is currently working towards the installation of 3 Port Elgin Gateway signs and have been in discussions with the Ministry of Transportation as well as Bruce County on preferred locations of the signs to be installed at both the north and south end of the destination urban area of Port Elgin on Highway 21 as well as the Bruce County Road 17. Option A was identified as a potential gateway sign as part of the 2009 signage strategy presented by Corbin Design in partnership with the County of Bruce. Since that time, the County of Bruce has completed community toolkits that have modified the proposed identified unique gateway signs for each community. Option B is contained within the approved community toolkit identified for Port Elgin. Staff is working at determining the desired footprint for the locations and is currently in discussions with MTO. Ideally, the location of municipal property would be the desired preference. It is anticipated that the footprint for the signs will be approximately 12 feet long, depending on the property envelopes. Staff has met with the master craftsman from Saugeen First Nations that has been acquiring the skill of dry stacking at the Saugeen Amphitheatre. They have expressed a desire to construct a dry stack base of each sign, and staff looks forward to potentially partnering with them on this project. And there's no financial impact with the selection of the preferred sign design.
Thank you, Jane. So I guess the recommendation needs one little fill-in here. So we'll take some comments, and I guess maybe we can take a vote on how we're going to decide which one. But Vice Deputy Mayor Huber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just off the top, my preference is to still stick with option A, but I'm curious, Jane, you say that there's no financial impact with the selection. Is there an anticipation that the cost of either style of sign would be pretty much exactly the same?
Yes, I've met with a local contractor that can certainly give us a sign considerably less expensive than the Corbin pricing that we acquired, and he has assured me that there really isn't that much of a difference in price for either of the signs.
If I could just continue, the reason why I favor option A is I like option B. I think it looks very beachy and has a very summer kind of feel to it. Option A, though, speaks to me of a vibrancy and a seriousness to the community, which I think would be attractive to potential investors, and it gives a serious look to the beginnings of the community. So option B, that kind of signage fits in somewhere. I don't see it as a gateway sign, though. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Councillor Grace.
Mayor, my question first is, About the durability of the materials, Jane, I'm thinking about the wood, if that would be less durable perhaps. I don't know what the brown material is made of.
The brown material, although it looks like a boarding, it can be incorporated into the photo of the sign, I'll say. So it's all one piece. It's the same durability as the existing signs in Southampton. So that doesn't necessarily mean that we're not going to have to budget for some long-term financial maintenance work on it within 8 to 9 years. But certainly there's a longevity to these.
Okay. If we're voicing our preferences, my only problem with A is that it's almost... The community of Saugeen Shores is almost illegible. Maybe it would look different when it was in, but the community of Saugeen Shores and B pops out. So anyway.
Councillor Mike Wyatt.
Mr. Mayor. Through you to Jane, just a couple of questions. I understand we've budgeted, I think it's $40,000 for these 3 gateway signs for the town of Port Algon. And Jane, if you could just refresh my memory on the $40,000, what it would include, sign construction, the stonework at the bottom, hydro, landscape. I wasn't sure what was all included in the $40,000. Secondly, it's around timetable. We've talked about this in the 2009 signage strategy, and if you could just give me a rough idea, Jane, is this a carry forward project? Probably, I would assume, to 2016, or what's the timetable to have these in the ground?
I believe, and Mr. Allison may correct me if I'm wrong, the $40,000 was council, and so what I'm doing is trying to maximize that $40,000 to get what we can out of it, and we'll be looking at obviously the maintenance or the preparing of the ground is what I'm trying to say. The dry stacked, I've got a price on that as well, and I think that will come well into budget, as well as the 3 signs themselves. So I'm looking at getting the 3 dry stacked and the 3 signs as part of this $40,000. I've looked at some solar lighting as well. I'm showing in the budget for 2017 some funding for that to do the solar lightings for each of them.
Just the other part of the question was, we approved some dollars in the budget this year to get the signs in the ground. My question is, when do we see these signs going in the ground?
Well, staff's desire is to have it in this fall, and based on our resources, we'll certainly try our best to get it done for this fall.
Councillor Minaj.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy that this report has come forward and we're ready to go. So then I have 3 things to say, and one of them is thanks to Vice Deputy Mayor Diane Huber, who has made it clear for me to understand the differences between Port Algon and Southampton, because I think that the beachy look is exactly what Port Algonites would want, and the less formal, the better. And I understand the difference. What I would like to note is that a community of Saugeen Shores for me just isn't bold enough. It is washed out on the option A, and I do prefer option B. And I'm having trouble with the white lettering. Asking the question is, if we really want to make the statement that this is Saugeen Shores, can we read it well enough at 50, 60, 100 kilometers per hour as we drive into town? Can people see it and know that it's there? Slow down. So 3 feet off the ground. And my last concern and comment would be what's behind it and what's in front of it. How do we maintain the grounds and so that it stands out well enough that it's not fallen in with a backdrop that's an inappropriate backdrop. Thank you very much.
I think you only are asking me one question, if that's the backdrop around the signs. The existing signs that we have entering into Southampton, staff maintains that by doing the landscaping, cutting the grass around it. So with the existing Southampton signs, we have trees. Well, as I've indicated, we're still dealing with MTO and the county to determine a location for them.
I would ask that we have some visual acuity on what's behind them so that they stand out by themselves and they're not with a billboard behind them or something as you see them as you drive up to them. And there is another question, can we do something other than white lettering? Because the white lettering is difficult to read.
We can certainly do something about it. Those were the colors that were defined by the Corbin design, so I certainly have some conversations with the company I'm currently dealing with to get their advice.
Deputy Mayor Charbonneau.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm having trouble getting. I like both of these signs, and I'm just thanking God that they're both here, and that we're going to pick one of them tonight and get them built, because it's about time. So let's plan to pick one tonight. But I also wanted to mention a couple. I have a question, and one thing I want to mention is the name of the company that actually designed this sign is not in here. That's Canvas Studios in Port Elgin. They designed it and gave it to Corbin, who stuck it in their report. But this is a locally designed sign, FYI. My question, though, Jane, is with regard to the actual material that the main feature piece is made out of there. And if I recall correctly, and some of you guys here might remember better than I do, but the Corbin design was it was actually a material. It wasn't wooden, right? That the Corbin design was made of plastic, and it was supposed to be lit internally. That was the design that was originally settled on by Corbin. That's in the plan, I think. Maybe I'm nuts here. Am I right about that, Mike? Yeah. So has that changed? Like the design that's actually in the Corbin report is different from what we're looking at here. What are the materials this is made out of? I hope I haven't been too muddled about that question.
This is a wooden board type of material. Certainly with the Corbin design, I do recall the conversations, although I was not directly involved with it. The cost was quite prohibited. Yeah. This is a fraction of the cost, so council can decide if they want me to go back and bring forward those costings for Corbin and consider one sign at a time. I think this is the best bang for our buck in order to get all three signs completed. Sorry, I'm not aware of the sign being lit internally. I certainly was not part of those conversations. But we are looking at lighting that will illuminate these.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I think that's exactly what we want. I don't think we want to go the Corbin route because it was a $40,000 a piece pop for those signs. I just wanted to be real clear that what we were getting here is not what was in the Corbin report, and I don't have any problem with what's here, but I just thought I wanted to draw that distinction. With my head here, I guess I want to state a preference, and my preference is option B. And the reason why I choose option B is because it was chosen as part of the community toolkit design project, which was just done last year. It's the most recent project that we did. It was a public public process, a good process, a recent process, and I think the most defensible thing for us is to pick the recent one and not the one that was done 7 years ago. And the difference between them is so really, I think, quite negligible, really. And so I think that, option B would be my choice for those reasons. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so just to comment, what I want to say is I really want to thank you or congratulate you for getting those, for the basis, for the work with those stone masons from the First Nations, because some of the work they do out there is absolutely stunning. And if you haven't had a chance, anybody hasn't had a chance to go out and see what they're doing out there, you should go out and see it because it is just stunning. And I think they will work very well with whichever sign we decide on here tonight. So, and I do comment to you, I appreciate your comments about Corbin because I think that was one of the reasons we've stumbled so long about picking a sign because there was not a lot of appetite at $40,000 a sign either around the council table or in the community to spend that kind of money for signs. In any case, I think the way we'll do this is I'll ask who's in favor of option A and who's in favor of option B, and we'll decide it that way. So I'll ask the question, who is in favor of option A? One. Who is in favor of option B? And then it's option B. So I'll read the recommendation then. The recommendation is that council approves option B as the approved gateway sign for Port Elgin. All in favor of that? That's carried. Thank you. Communications for petitions for committee of the whole action. There's one there about beach volleyball, correspondence from a resident, and I'll ask for some direction. Councillor Mike Myatt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just am going to pass a request on through you, Mr. Mayor, to our Director of Community Service, if I might, and that is to ask Jane if she may come back to council with a report and recommendation that would outline our options for where our beach volleyball courts may be located next year. And I, for one, don't necessarily agree with Mr. Kelly in his recommendation that we not allow organized sports on the beach. I just wanted to tell a little story here, if I might. My wife and I were down watching a concert there in the summertime on a Saturday, Sunday night, and there's no organized beach volleyball on that particular Sunday night, and I looked out, and 6 volleyball courts were being used by members of the public. So, I think and people were sharing space, and I know at the high lake level this year, it did cause some grief, some concerns with members of the public because the beach space shrank, and hence those 9 volleyball courts looked like they were taking up a whole lot of space. And so one of the things I talked to Jane about, and I know she's meeting briefly, I think shortly, with the beach volleyball group, is relocating a couple of the beach volleyball courts to in behind the McGrath Pavilion area in that I call dead space at the beach, and perhaps relocating a couple down at the south end. I've heard that conversation. I've heard that there's some support from the beach volleyball group in that regard. So my request to Jane, I guess, would be, Jane, could you come back with a report to council outlining where the courts may be located next year in communication with the beach volleyball group. Secondly, also in that report, could you talk about one of Mr. Kelly's comments was there's no fee to use the volleyball courts with our beach volleyball league. I'm not sure whether there should be or there shouldn't be. I'm just saying I think maybe it would be wise for you at least to have that conversation with the beach volleyball group, and I'd be interested to hear what your recommendation would be coming back in a month or so, whenever you come back with your staff report, talking about perhaps whether there's an appetite to charge a rental fee for the use of the beach volleyball court. So that would be my request, Mr. Mayor, is to talk about a plan outlining where the courts next year would be located, and secondly, is there an appetite for some kind of a small fee for the use of the courts?
Other comments? Vice Deputy Mayor Huber.
Thank you. Just a question. His comments do allude to the fact that there's no revenue coming in, but there is a cost to the town for certain things. So I would be very interested to know if these are legitimate concerns, in the sense that if there is a requirement for additional grooming for a specific area for a specific purpose, I would think that we should get a little bit of assistance with taking care of those expenses. But I also note about tournaments, and I just would liken this to, we often receive reports here related to slow pitch tournaments, and they're using facilities and hydro and all that kind of stuff, and there's often some money being added to whatever bill they already have related to town involvement to help with setup and cleanup and that kind of thing. So I am curious to know, and hopefully perhaps Jane, you can, when you speak with the beach volleyball people, perhaps have a good sense of what kinds of expenses the town does incur for some of their activity, because maybe some of it is something that should just happen as a matter of course, but other groups are paying for the use of facilities and the use of services, and if there are some legitimate expenses here, there should be some sort of revenue generation to help cover those expenses. Thank you.
Councilor Minaj, do you want to speak? Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I discussed this with Jane, and I discussed this with our friend about the issues, and I discussed it with the volleyball people, and I know that they're interested in progressing some advantages to the waterfront master plan in the future, and I know that they've discussed money in kind on numerous occasions. So I guess the ideal is that, and I echo the sentiment around the room. User fees came in for sporting activities a long time ago, and this is a sporting activity using public property, and we're helping them, and they're making money. So at some point, the ball people, the soccer people all made money, and they gave money back to the town, and they got improvements, as we saw at Hallowell Park this year. There was money from the soccer organization. So I would like to think that the backing of the finance report takes all those things into consideration, and that if there's any way to measure how much space they're using and how much money they're taking in, and then offsetting the notion that they're going to give some of that money back. I'm pretty sure they are. I'd like to see all that in the report too. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Charbonneau.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I largely agree with what's been said, and I certainly agree with the direction that has been suggested by Councillor Myatt. I think we just need to make a statement around here that the Social Athletics of Saugeen Shores, this club is a great organization in this community. They're providing this activity, beach volleyball. They got 276 people involved in that from Saugeen Shores, surrounding areas. They do dodgeball in the wintertime, and 160 people. I know dozens of people who are involved in these activities in our community. I think they're providing a great service for young adults in our community to get recreational activity. They bring people out to the beach at a time of day when when there's fewer people down at the beach, I think, in the evenings, and I just know so many people who get so much out of this organization. I think they're providing a tremendous service, and so I hope that when we do get this report that we approach it from the standpoint of trying to support this group and help them to expand and help them to improve the service that they're providing in this community, rather than look at it from a punitive standpoint as to how we charge them for what they're doing. Although I think that I do believe that there's a willingness on their side to talk about a fee structure if that's council's desire. And so I'm not suggesting that I'm against that. Only that let's talk about how we promote them and support them and keep them doing what they're doing, because they're doing a great thing in my view. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And I think I think Councillor Mike Myatt really got to the thing is we'll leave it with you, Jane, to go back and talk to these groups, comes back, and we'll have that discussion about some of the things that were said here at a future date. So we've dealt with that issue. Then the next item on the agenda is communication petitions for committee of the whole information, and there's 8 items there. I don't know if anybody wants to speak to the Conservation Authority budget. Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Yes, I will, Mr. Mayor. The Conservation Authority budget is here for Council's information. It has been approved provisionally by the Conservation Authority Board of Directors. It is now out for its 30-day review by the member municipalities, and so this is our opportunity to review it. And of course, Mayor Smith and I are, as your representatives on the Conservation Authority, are open to your input on it, and we will be having a vote on it likely in November. But I will just highlight a couple of pieces of the document. You see that the overall general levy increase proposed in 2015 is 1.9%, or just around $30,000 on a $2.8 million budget, or pardon me, $3.8 million budget. That translates into about a 2.9% increase, about $10,000 for the town of Saugeen Shores. The reason why our increase is higher than the general levy increase is because we grow faster than anybody else, period, in the watershed. And so as we grow faster and they grow less fast, we eat a bigger piece of the pie by assessment. So, but I think the important message to draw out of that is that last year and then this year again, the increases to the cost of operating the Conservation Authority are very reasonable, are increasing at a very low rate. And that, I think, is because of a regime of very sound fiscal management that started 2 or 3 years ago and has been carried through and is bearing fruit. Members of council may or may not recall that it was only a few years ago there was a lot of concern among watershed municipalities about the financial sustainability of the Conservation Authority. I think that those concerns can be comfortably put to bed. Another important figure to draw out of the 2015 figures is a likely approximate $200,000 surplus, about a 5% surplus on a $3.8 million budget. Which is quite a significant surplus. About half of it came from excess activity in the Planning and Regulations Department, and the rest of it came from savings in all of the other departments. And so I think the message that I want to leave you with is that the authority is operating soundly financially. It has generated a large surplus in 2015, and it is the intention of the Board of Directors of the Conservation Authority to use those resources that have been generated to address our biggest problem, which is our Planning and Regulations Department and its operations. The Board has recognized that that is a serious and present problem in the Conservation Authority, and we are going to address it, and we're going to use this money, I think, to do that, and to fund some action items that the board has agreed on. And I just want to briefly, and I'll conclude with this because I don't want to bore you all to death, but I really want to get out to you some of the action items that the authority board has approved and is working on to improve our Planning and Regulations Department. The board is tasked staff to develop a policy to govern the activities of the Planning and Regulations Department. We have not had a policy to govern the activities of the Planning and Regulations Department to date. We will soon. We're going to institute a robust and accurate file tracking system. We do not have a file tracking system that everybody in the office can access. That's slowing us down, and we're going to fix that. We have already constituted and are working through, and Bart Toby and Jay Posner from the town of Saugeen Shores are involved in a mapping working group, which is tasked with identifying mapping across the watershed in priority areas that can be improved so that we can, with more accurate mapping, reduce screening areas and take property out of unnecessary screening that has nothing to do with the regulation but is just screening people out. And we're going to stop that in high priority areas where we're doing a lot of development, for example, here in the town of Saugeen Shores. So we're working on that. We are developing a customer feedback survey, preparing an anonymous customer feedback survey, satisfaction survey, which has been presented to the board and is nearly ready for launch and will be launched very shortly. We have already ceased providing zoning comments and correspondence to applicants. That is done. We polled our watershed municipalities, including the town of Saugeen Shores, and we heard a resounding no, we do not want you to do that, so we have stopped. We are working on updating the memorandum of agreement with the County of Bruce. The intention there is to review in detail how the Conservation Authority is acting when it comes to Planning Act reviews and commenting on Planning Act reviews. We are going to ensure that the authority is in compliance with the law. We are going to ensure that there is no duplication. We're going to ensure that it is a more streamlined approach to doing that so that it's a better and simpler process to understand and a more effective process all around. We are working on better communicating the appeal process within the Conservation Authority. Currently, if you submit an application to the Conservation Authority, you probably won't know how you get to the end of that process. You won't know what your appeal rights are to the board, to the Ministry of Mining and Lands, and so we're going to make sure people do know that. We're improving staff training in customer service and in their basic responsibilities. And we're also working on converting all of our paper files to digital. So we have a number of action items. Our staff is working on them, and the board is absolutely committed to using the resources we have and the time we have to act quickly on these matters and make the Conservation Authority work better for the people of the watershed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other Deputy Mayor or Vice Deputy Mayor Huber?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for all that commentary, Luke. One of the things that's interesting about the Conservation Authority, and I sat on the board there for a couple of years myself, by the time we see this, I realize it's called a draft budget, but it's pretty much the way it's going to be. And certainly your commentary added a lot to just the numbers on here, because if you just look at the numbers, yeah, the percents seem quite low, but then you look at the $30,000 overall increase in the levy revenue that they're getting. We represent a third of that, and you start to question, what services do we get for it? So your commentary was very helpful in that regard. I guess what I would appreciate for the next cycle, and both you and the mayor will still be at that table, it would be advantageous for us to have an opportunity at some point, just as the budget process is starting at the Conservation Authority, for you to provide us with a bit of a commentary at that point, so then we can provide you both with a little bit of feedback to take back, because the reality is, you represent, sitting on that board, you're voting there, and so we have to get input into you before you make votes there. And so I guess what I'm saying is the next cycle through, I know that at some point Wayne will come, the general manager of the Conservation Authority, probably, and do a deputation. That's great. But perhaps you could kind of just plan to have something for us just as the budget process there starts, because I think there would be a wonderful opportunity for some commentary from us to feed into how you represent our community at the table. I'm not at all questioning what went on this year, because what you just described is what was started when you were back on the Conservation Authority, and then I replaced you, and I know it's been about 5 years in the works, and so I'm just glad to see it come to fruition. But we certainly this council certainly hasn't had much of a chance to give you some ideas or some questions, some concerns to take there. I would appreciate that chance the next time their budget process happens. Thank you.
Councillor Dave Myatt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to make a couple of comments with regards to the correspondence we have in front of us from Westerio Power announcing... excuse me? You all right? Oh, yep, the correspondence, and this correspondence came out on September the 30th, and what it describes is an announcement of a partnership that was formed between Westerio Power and Bruce County for the administration of their utility assistance program, where they supply around $25,000 per year for low-income funding. So this is a recurring theme that we've seen around our table recently, and many of you will have known that this service and this partnership with Westerio Power was, until September the 30th, in fact, a partnership with the United Way of Bruce and Gray, and so they've decided at the Westerio Power board that they no longer wish to maintain this service delivery partnership with the United Way, and they've sought out and found a new partner, and this unfortunately caused a little bit of misunderstanding between the board and the United Way, because the United Way wasn't notified that the partnership was being dissolved. In fact, that we didn't find out about it until it came out on social media on this day, and I've reached out to the County of Bruce and have yet to have a conversation with them, but I did reach out to our board member Larry Kramer, and as a result of that, I was able to sit down today with Larry Kramer and with Lisa Milne. Mark Kramer. Yep, Mark Kramer. Sorry, Mark. And we had a fulsome conversation about the events and the events over the past couple of years. Many of us will have recalled that both the United Way has been here making deposition, and so has Westerio in response to those depositions regarding the disconnect policy primarily, but a number of issues with the way that Westerio Power had been conducting its business, and the result of the past couple of years is that Westerio Power feels as though they're ready to move on to a new partner, and that's a option that they have, and we have no problem with that. In fact, this change in direction is a timely one, in fact, because we were just recently having discussions at United Way about the increase in the number of clients that we were servicing that are Wisterio clients, and also not just the increase, but the complexity in the way that people are bringing are finding themselves in situations where they're unable to make their payments on their electricity charges. So our staff were reasonably bogged down and unable to cope at sometimes with the amount and complexity of these things. So the County of Bruce has taken it over, and what I was informed today is that the County of Bruce will not only be taking it over for Bruce County, but administering it for the 4 counties that Wisterio Power operates in. And the questions that I'll be seeking to have a conversation with Bruce County on is how they plan to recoup the revenue that it costs, because this is it's not a small task to screen applicants and service them and deal with United Way and disconnect issues and reconnect issues. So it's an onerous task they've taken on, and I'm not sure that they've or I'm not aware of how they plan to resource that or fund that portion of it. But we also the United Way raises funds outside of the mandated funds. This $100,000 that Wisterio gives is in large part a mandated fund by the Ontario Energy Board, and we also raise funds in other ways that go towards not only Wisterio Power clients, but also we pay for winter warmth projects, oil, gas, propane, wood for low-income families that qualify. So we'll be still running that portion of the program, and I presume after the conversation today that we'll still be servicing some Wisterio clients out of this, but without having those conversations with the county, we're not sure exactly how they're going to transition that. So I would just like to bring you all up to speed, which I think I have done here, as to how this transpired. It was certainly a surprise to me when it came out, but I was very thankful today that Ms. Milne and Mr. Kramer took the time out of their busy schedules to come over to Saugeen Shores today and discuss this, and it is my sincere hope as the chair of the United Way Board that we can somehow go about our business in a manner that is not discrediting to each other, and I'm not saying that what they've done is discrediting us in any way, but I'm just hoping that we can mend any fences that have been burned here, or continue to go exist, and with the ultimate goal in making sure that those people who are in need of utility assistance are in fact serviced. We just don't want to see anybody falling through the cracks here. We don't want to see, I think it was stated by our deputy mayor at one point in time, that having one person disconnected in the wintertime is one too many. And we just don't want to find ourselves in that situation. So I'm looking forward to hearing from the County of Bruce as to how they are going forward with this program, and if the United Way can be of assistance in some way, then we certainly would welcome that opportunity as well. Thank you.
Councillor Grace.
Number 1, the report from the Grey Bruce Health Unit, the resolution to support the Porcupine Health Unit resolution. I guess, Mr. Mayor, and you're still a representative on that? Yeah. So I guess my question about that is, because I read through the report, which was published December 2013, and I noted that Don West, who's the CAO of the Porcupine Health Unit, was on the working group. I wasn't sure if that was significant, but what I did wonder is how much, because the resolution refers, and the letter refers to drastic changes, radical changes, several times. And when I looked up the per capita expenses for Grey Bruce, for the funding for Grey Bruce compared to some other places, the gist of the resolution is that rural and northern areas are going to be funded much less than urban centers. In 2013, the amount for Grey Bruce was $49.56 per capita. Ottawa was 30.57. Middlesex, London, 33.42. Toronto, 45.25. So we were getting more. Porcupine's getting $74.16 per capita compared to the others, one of the highest. So I was wondering how much less we're going to be getting. If you know that, I know that's sort of an unfair question right off the bat, but maybe we could get that information. And I just want to say that having gone through just personal experience recently, that I found, that I felt like I was getting a lot of support from that must have been expensive, including the fact that the Grey Bruce region is one of 3 areas in the whole province that has this palliative care e-shift program where workers come in the middle of the night and stay with the family all night long. And so I'm thinking, we, from a personal perspective, we do get good service, I think. I'm curious as to how much we're going to have that per capita funding reduced.
And as the board chair, so am I. So you're right, there was a task force set up to look at it. There was a number of groups on it, but it was led by the chair from the Peel region. And the report, when it came out, there's 36 units. 8 units, they say, are underfunded, and 28 units, of which Grey Bruce is overfunded using the model that they developed. And I suspect they're going to get 28 letters, the minister, about disagreement with this proposal. What they've said to us, they haven't really said where the funding will go. That they will have told us not to expect any increases in our budget for the next foreseeable future. They didn't say any time. So 0% increases. So that will inevitably lead to less in services or less personnel, because there's 3 collective agreements that are going to be negotiated in the next 8 months, but won't be zeros. So it's a big challenge. Will be a big challenge for the rural health units. And there's a range of programs that they fund, and some of them are changing. One of them's what they call Healthy Smiles, but it's dental programs for people that can't afford dental care, and it's called Sign Up Children in Need of Therapy. Children under 18 can get therapy. They've told us that's going to be rolled into one program, and we're not really sure what the funding model is going to go on that. So it's really up in the air about what our funding envelope will be from the province, other than they have specifically told us, and that isn't related to this study, don't expect any increases for the next 2 to 3 years. Thank you. Councillor Minaj.
Mr. Mayor, sorry about the confusion. I didn't realize we were done with Saugeen Valley. I'd like to go back there if I could. I'd like to ask questions of the Deputy Mayor. So, Luke, I couldn't find it. Could you shed some light, please, on some of the major activities that are related to the Saugeen Valley? I know there's more, but there has been talk about Saugeen Bluffs Campground. There's been talk about the Saugeen Bluffs Maple Syrup Festival, and there's certainly Denny's Dam is an influence in our region. Can you shed any light on any light on those 3 activities as influenced by the budget? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I can. To start, the Maple Syrup Festival will carry on in the year 2016. The foundation, the Saugeen Valley Conservation Foundation, which is separate from the Conservation Authority, but separate but related, they run the festival, and they decided at their September meeting that they would hold the festival again in 2016, and then thereafter assess its viability going forward. So I would encourage you all to be there. I'm working on trying to organize some sort of, I don't know, spit seeds at maple syrup, and yeah, I guess you could drink maple syrup or something. I don't know what, but we got to come up with something to get some politicians out there and get some support that way. So I'm going to be tapping you all to do something in the spring, and I hope you'll all be there. So anyway, that's going to go forward, and that's great news for Saugeen Shores, and I think that was a win for us, and there was lots of community support for that. With regard to the Bluffs Campground in general, that is a topic of conversation that's been had for many years now at the Conservation Authority. The fact is that the Conservation Authority's revenue parks do not make money, or not very much money. We have one very profitable park at Brucedale, and one at Durham and Saugeen Bluffs that, at least for the last number of years, have lost money. The whole revenue park picture tends to look positive, but that's because Brucedale is carrying the other two, and then that's less and less so every year. It's a struggle. It's something the Conservation Authority struggles with, but I can say fairly clearly at this stage anyway that the authority is not contemplating any change to its operations at Saugeen Bluffs Campground. The campground is likely to operate in 2016, and it's just too interwoven with the rest of the authority's operation for any kind of radical decision. I know that it was up. They were considering a lease opportunity, but that was not successful. So, but I think I can confidently advise council that there won't be any change at the Bluffs Campground in the next year anyway. And finally, there is also no plan or no consideration of any change to what's going on at Denny's Dam at this stage from the Conservation Authority standpoint.
Okay, Councillor Mike Blatt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My item is it's number 4 actually, and it's just really to express my disappointment. I'm discouraged by the fact the Minister of Transportation has turned our application down, and we submitted our expression of interest, and we couldn't get to the application stage, which surprised me a little. But I think it really verifies the point that these grant processes are extremely competitive, and I know our Director of Community Services writes very good grant applications, and it just brings to light how competitive this process really is. And the our expression of interest, they use an evidence-based approach, and they talk about, and I'm talking about the 10th concession grant project. I'm assuming that's the one, Jane, from 10th concession below the hill, the pumping station down to the water, and it's evidence-based approach, and we were turned down to connect that section down to the North Shore Road, and it doesn't meet certain criteria, increasing connectivity, improving cycling safety, innovation partnership, strategic importance, cost effectiveness, tourism, and feasibility. I'm a little disappointed that we didn't meet a lot of those, and I'm sure, in my mind, we do. But here's my request, is that the last line says, please call OMCIP phone line at 1-800 number to discuss the evaluation of your expression of interest. And I know Jane, our Director of Community Service, doesn't need one more thing to do. But I think it'd be a good opportunity. They provided an opportunity for us to call them to talk about where we fell short. And I don't think that would be a bad thing to do. And so that would be my request, Mr. Mayor, through you to the Director, is to call this area manager, Heather McClintock, and from the Sustainable and Innovative Transportation Office, just to talk about where did we fall short with our application. I totally understand it's very competitive. They've probably got hundreds of applications, but I still think, from a trail standpoint, that connecting link on 10th concession, moving your cyclists east-west in a safe manner, making our roads even safer, I think it's a good thing to do. Obviously, we're investing a lot of money in trails, so if that would be my request to the Director, if we could, ask Jane if she could call the office, say, where did we fall short? I think that would be a good thing to do in preparation for our next grant application.
Yeah, I think there's nothing to do, but and in the same breath, Mike, don't hesitate yourself. Call them yourself, because they'll give you the information just as well. So give it to Jane. But I've done it on many occasions, and give them a call. Sure. No, I think if you want, you can get together and call them yourselves, because we've done that on occasion on different grants. You'll get the answer, the standard answer. Item on our agenda is reports. Let me see here. Reported department heads. There's 2 information reports there, one on the Port Elgin wastewater treatment plant and one on the Pioneer Cemetery Stage 2 report. I don't know if you want to comment anything to it. If anybody's got any questions of Stuart, by all means, let's hear them. If not, then that's the end of our agenda, and we'll take a motion to adjourn. Councillor Matheson and Deputy Mayor Charbonneau, all in favor? Okay, we're adjourned for 10 minutes. We'll reconvene at 8:55.